Hey, it's Mayim again, and today I'm going to be answering questions that you have posted about how to school your kids from home. As I explained in one of my previous videos here on YouTube, homeschooling is a decision about a philosophy regarding education that usually comes from research and decision-making about how you want your kids parented, how you want them schooled, what kind of control you'd like over what they're learning and how, and decisions about how to manage your time, your life, and your finances so that your children have you or parents like you as their primary educators. That's the decision that my ex-husband and I made about how to school our children. They are now 11 and 14, and they've never been in any sort of organized school. They do take classes in homeschool centers now that they're older, but they are homeschooled. What you people are doing, working and having to school your children from home, is different than homeschooling. It, as I've described it before, sounds like hell because you also have to work, and parents who homeschool typically do not hold down full-time jobs while also schooling their children. So what I thought I would do is answer some of the most common questions that came up, which have been posted, and let's see if we can make some sense of this situation that we are all in right now with having to work and also having our kids at home. Many of the questions that I got centered around notions of how do you figure it all out? How do you prioritize if you have more than one child? How do you separate school life from home life? How do you actually get them to want to do anything? Now, these are really, really important questions, and they're questions that homeschool parents do deal with all of the time. I think one of the challenges right now for parents who are working and also schooling their kids from home is that you don't have the experience or the motivation to do this because you believe in it strongly. You are in a situation where you have to do it because our circumstances are making it necessary. That's going to be a real challenge. And I guess as an overarching guideline, I would say that whatever you think this should look like, it's probably not going to look like that. And part of the challenge is being okay with that. For those of us who homeschool, the notion of school life versus home life, as an example, is something that really can be very fluid. And every family schools differently and parents differently. But for the most part, we do have organized time that is dedicated to schooling. And since I'm the working parent, my ex-husband has a lot of structure and also a lot of fluidity to how our boys have school. And when they're with me and I'm teaching them things, there's also a lot of fluidity. So the second thing that I wanted to mention is that whatever time you think things should take, they probably won't take that long, and you also get to be okay with that. So one of the questions was about, my kids normally spend a 7-hour day in school. Is that how I should structure my life? No, because the structure of a school day is based around managing many, many children. I grew up in classes with 30 kids, and many public schools are now having class sizes that are even bigger than that. So it doesn't take, let's say, an hour to have a math class for your child. It takes an hour to manage 20, 30, sometimes 40 kids having a math class for an hour. I think that a good general rule is to get work done in a way that's not stressful and that kind of goes just before the point where it becomes a fight and an argument. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, my kids don't want to do anything. Everything's a fight. Chances are that's a lot of what many parents are dealing with right now. And this is another place where, for homeschool parents, we have a set of vocabulary, we have a language, we have a vernacular around how and why we do our schoolwork like this. That may not be what this feels like for you, and that's okay. One of the things that I've been hearing from a lot of parents who are having their kids home for the first time is a real sense of we need to get this done. I have to get this done. And the fact is, none of us should judge our children's education by what happens right now. This is a novel virus. It's a novel situation. This is a novel way not only to school our children, but to live with our children. I would like to believe, and I hope that you will agree, that whatever does or doesn't get done, we're going to be dealing with repercussions of this time for quite some time. And our kids are not going to be the only ones. If your kid does not want to do their multiplication tables, that may be an expression of other anxiety they're having. We can't treat this like we're putting our kids in the military and there's things that need to get done because they're in the military. The schooling system in many ways and in many instances was based on a very military style of education, where we're kind of raising soldiers of education. And for many of us, especially those of us who homeschool, and particularly those of us who are unschoolers, who tend towards a much more fluid and flexible style of education, we want to raise learners. We want to raise leaders. We're not looking to raise children who are obedient in their studies to the point that they don't get to express other emotions that they might be having. Another question came up about how you kind of balance kids wanting to like do other things, either along with studying or instead of studying. So some parents are more strict about no eating during studying. I happen to be the kind of person who believes that some kids need active hands and active snacking, just like there are kids who really do need to and like to doodle while they're listening, and they can still have an active present mind. It's really up to you to figure out your kid. A lot of times kids are trying to procrastinate or stall, and that's why they ask for snacks. Think about your child who doesn't want to go to bed and keeps asking for one more sip of water. That's often a case of anxiety that's trying to come out another way. For me, I allow snacks that are simple and that are easy when my kids are studying or doing homework, as long as it does not become a distraction. I think a lot of kids right now and a lot of parents are trying to figure out where the tension points are when we're forced to be together in ways that we might not normally be if you're not a homeschooling parent. So I think a lot of this is about negotiation. One final thing that I wanted to mention, and this kind of speaks to a lot of the questions that were asked, there is a general need for all of us to really lower our expectations about what happens right now. And this is something that I've posted videos by Siggy Cohen before, a wonderful family therapist and psychologist. And one of the things she said is that we are dealing with an unprecedented situation. And any ideas that we have about these are the things that need to get done, and this is the way it needs to be done, and they need to listen to me, and they need to stop fighting, and they need to stop needing to go to the bathroom, all of those things are only going to create more tension and more anxiety. Children are anxious, and even if you don't think your child is anxious, they likely are having feelings, even if it's at a less significant or less dramatic level than we are. They are having feelings about their change in schedule, change in routine. If you have a child like my younger one, some kids can feel when there's anxiety in an adult, even if their back is turned. So kids right now are in a very unusual situation. And yeah, they're going to want to play more video games. They're going to want to eat more comfort food. And as our kids try and bend the rules and try and see how far they can push us, it's really up to us to try and practice self-care, take care of ourselves. I've picked up meditating more than I had been, trying to nap when I can, trying to take care of myself so that I have more patience to deal with my kids when we kind of come up against each other. I don't want people who are schooling with their kids at home to feel like they're alone. I don't want them to feel like they don't have the skills that homeschool parents do. But what I can tell you is that it takes a significantly less amount of time for children to actually do the work that we think of as their schoolwork. And for those of us who homeschool, we do really believe that play, exploration, free time, and yes, even boredom are also part of the educational process. I guess I'd like to say, be open to what this time might bring. You might surprise yourself, you might surprise your children, and chances are your children will surprise you as well. I look forward to talking more about the things that we can do to support each other, and please be gentle with yourselves and with your kids.